Yeah.
It's exhausting, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome again. As I said earlier in the preset, I'll be bringing up each scheduled speaker. They'll be stating their name, spelling their name and their title to allow to help you in your production needs. So we'll begin first with Maui Emergency Management Agency, Darryl Olivera, our administrator.
Aloha and good afternoon. Darryl Olivera, Administrator for Maui County Emergency Management. My name is spelled D-A-R-R-Y-L. O-L-I-V-E-I-R-A.
Aloha, good afternoon. My name is John Pelletier, Chief of Maui County Police Department, J-O-H-N, P-E-L-L-E-T-I-E-R.
My name is Jeremy Stupnagel, S-T-U-E-L-P-N-A-G-E-L, the coroner's physician medical examiner.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Fenton. I'm the FEMA Region 9 Regional Administrator and also appointed by President Biden to be the federal coordinator for this event. B.O.B., last name F as in Frank, E-N-T-O-N. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Callanog. I'm EPA's Incident Commander. My last name is spelled C-A-L-A-N-O-G.
Good afternoon. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Peavy. I'm the commander for the Honolulu District U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. First name R-Y-A-N, last name P-E-V-E-Y.
I'm Mahina Martin, the County of Maui's Chief of Communications Public Affairs. As always, I'll be serving as your moderator. I'll be turning this over to Mayor Bissen in a moment. Following each speaker's prepared remarks, we'll take questions from the media. When you do that and it's time, raise your hand, state your name and your media outlet, and we'll call upon you. Mayor Bissen.
Aloha. Aloha, everyone. First of all, our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to all of our citizens and our residents, their families, especially those who have already been notified, and those that we are attempting to identify. Again, we will do everything we can to continue to locate and identify our people. Just know we're doing everything we can and within our power to do that, just that. We know you all want to and you deserve to return to your properties as well in Lahaina. And that's why we have assembled this group of people that are here today to explain how that will start to happen very shortly. As we carefully make our way through this search phase, we had over 400 trained search personnel and over 40 trained dogs on their teams. And because of that, we were able to accelerate the search. And we can now move on to our next phase. Today, our federal partners, and particularly FEMA, the EPA, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, will provide valuable work for our community, again, helping residents and business owners to return to their properties. Combined with county and state efforts, these partners are working with us to ensure that safe conditions of those affected areas take place, that we connect residents and business owners to the federal programs that are out there for assistance, and that these folks are experienced partners in the future work of making our area safe and re-entry for all of our citizens. Our collaboration with our federal partners will mean that the cost of the recovery will be supported by these agencies. It also means that my teams and I are at the county level will be directly working with them. The county will champion the interests of our community with safety, with cultural and community priorities, and we will drive locally these steps as we move forward. No one in our state, has ever experienced the magnitude of this disaster and the degree of tragedy. And therefore, as we move through it, coordination meetings with all county, state, and federal agencies are occurring daily with my team and the folks that, again, you'll be hearing from since day one. And all of their resources are being given and brought to our island. Once this area is deemed safe, there will be specific steps for the residents and the business owners to gain access. And again, we will continue to share that information with you just as soon as we have that. There is a sequence of events that will take place, again, starting with safety, and that will be explained to you. And with the completion of these search activities, we hope that this will move as quick as possible and that we can get our folks back in there. I do want to thank everyone who've been looking out for each other, all of those folks that have been helping each other in our community. Thank you. Mahalo.
Last week, we introduced our interim administrator for the Maui Emergency Management Agency, Daryl Oliveira. Yesterday was his first day on the job. We'd like to invite him back up. He'll be followed by the rest of our Maui team, and then we'll go into our federal partners. Daryl?
Thank you. I'd like to just, again, express our pouring of heart for the Maui community and what you've all been through. The other thing I'd like to do is, again, just thank the community for what they've been doing, stepping up and taking care of one another. All of the hubs, the pods, the different organizations out there, the nonprofits, everyone just rallying together to really get the community into a better place. I'd also like to thank the mayor for allowing me the opportunity last week to come on board early, to get to meet the teams, get to engage with the operations that are in place so that today or yesterday when I started officially, we could start running again, that I wouldn't miss a beat and wouldn't cause any pause or hiccup for the operations. I'd like to also acknowledge that, the day I received in the lobby from one of you, one of the media. I've been fortunate in my career to have enjoyed a very positive relationship with the media, a relationship that I feel was really founded on respect and admiration and appreciation for what each of us are trying to do in our roles to take care of the community. So again, look forward to working with you. What I assure you is what I've assured you in the past, transparency and forthright communication so that you can better inform the community. With that, as far as our operations, where we're at today, as the mayor said, we have wrapped up almost completely the search and recovery mission and moving into the next phase. That next phase is with the EPA doing the hazardous waste removal. That piece is critical to ensuring the safe access for everyone else going forward. Every step we take forward is a step with purpose, intent, and sensitivity. We really want to make sure that when we let people in, it is safe. I would love to give you a schedule on how fast this would move, but obviously it depends. As you can imagine, if any of you have seen either in footage or video or photos, the extent of material that's out there, there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done before we can allow people in to ensure their safety. So as we develop and formalize that plan and have more definitive timelines, we will share that with everyone. Right now, that work is starting. EPA is already on the ground. There's a lot of coordination with what they need to do, and I'll let our EPA representative give you the details. But as you can imagine, there's coordination with ensuring it is safe for them to be on the ground as well. We may still have energized power lines and other hazards that we need to take care of so they can do their work safely and effectively. As the mayor said, we really want to move quickly to get people home. We're calling the phase after the hazardous materials removal the return to Lahaina phase. We really want to stress we want to get people back home. The business is back in place. Again, we're going to do that with safety always being paramount. With that particular mission, I just want to assure the community, as you see the EPA going in to remove the hazardous waste, they are not removing personal belongings. They're doing it with sensitivity, with cultural representatives observing and guiding what they're doing. We're also very appreciative and sensitive. Lahaina is such a rich cultural and historic place that, again, every step we take is with appropriate measures in place. So I just want to reassure the community. The other thing, as we move, and you'll hear from the Corps of Engineers, as we move into a future phase with debris cleanup, what you will see now is not going to be the clearing of your land. It is just a removal of the hazardous materials, and a representative from the Corps of Engineers will also explain the sensitivity going forward with their operations with debris removal. So we are moving forward in a lot of coordination, I'm honored to be here and privileged to be here to serve the community, and I'll be obviously available for questions, but that's the operations we have at this point. Thank you.
Aloha. I said every time, and I'm just not going to stop saying it though, but we absolutely need patience. We do need your prayers more and more, and we will persevere and we will get through this. To date, with the list that we talked about last week, which is the 388, what we'd like to do is we'd like to call it, for moving forward, a credible list. Because other lists out there, we don't have data points. And so on Friday, we'll release the new credible list that the FBI will do, and we'll put the names out there. To date, over 200 people have responded to the email address. Now, and I want to point this out because I think this will help to tell the tale a little bit, but it's been 3 weeks. We have 110 missing persons MPD reports. That means people took the time to actually do a police report. And I'm not saying that the 388 and the 110, and I'm not saying that one of those numbers trumps the other, but what I am trying to say is we have a valid police report of 110 people. Of that, we know that over 50 are open cases that we're still actively working. Some of those folks have passed away, and some of them have been found safe. We're continuing to get information each and every day, which is why we want to do this right. Like I said before, I'd love to give you an updated list every day, but it won't be in the manner of which we want it. We want to make sure that it's credible. And so that's why we've got a process, and I need folks to trust the process as we build and go through this. This has never been done before to this scale anywhere. And so we're going to get to where we have the ability to get that information and get those data points to go. I'll tell you this, every effort is being taken to ensure that the search is complete. The urban search and rescue, like we briefed before, they completed 100% of their area. We have that last remaining 1%, which was the ocean. We have 4 miles that the FBI is going out right now, and they're going to go 200 yards out. No human remains have been found by the search crews since they've been there. And so I just want to diffuse any things that maybe came out and talked about some different things, but that's not the case. I would like to say that we're going to use intelligence to find if there's any other areas that we do need to go find, whether it's through the missing persons reports that come in and they say my loved one was here, and this may be a data point, and then we can then continue in case there was a chance that something needs to be further looked at. We've got archaeologists. We're going to make sure that we do that so that we do this the right way. We want to just assure each and every member of the community, because you know what, it's not 110 people, it's not 388. These are our loved ones. These are our brothers and sisters, our aunts and uncles, our moms and dads. We've had to make notifications to family members. We know people are grieving. You know, Maui got knocked down. Maui's not going to stay down. Maui's going to get up, but it's going to take a long time. And that's why we need everybody with us. And I cannot say thank you enough to the incredible work of all the first responders, all of them. And when I say first responders, it's not just people in this uniform or that uniform or that uniform, but there's a lot of people out there that are doing everything above and beyond, and they're answering that call. And I could not be more proud of them. God bless you. Thank you.
So I just wanted to assure everybody that everyone that's come through the coroner's office is being treated with dignity and respect, and we're doing everything we can with the identification process, which is obviously quite complex due to the fire. We're also doing everything we can to expedite release of remains in an appropriate fashion, and we'll do everything we can to help mitigate and help with this grieving process with the families and be open and receptive to their needs and be available to them as appropriately needed. And we're with you, and we'll do everything we can. The other thing I would encourage people to do is those that may have had family members involved in this, please do come forward to take a DNA swab. That will help greatly with the identification process. And this is what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you to our Maui team, our Hawaii team. You heard from Police Chief John Pelletier, as well as Dr. Jeremy Thomas Soutnagle from the State Coroner's Office, as well as our interim administrator of the Maui Emergency Management Agency, Dara Oliveira. We'll be inviting up next our partners as we move through the disaster. These are our partners on the federal level. You'll be hearing from Incident Commander Bob Fenton, as well as from EPA Incident Commander Steve Kalanog and the Honolulu District Commander Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Peavy from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So I'll turn this over to the three gentlemen. Bob?
Well, let me first start off with, our prayers with everyone here with Maui. I've been here since the fires occurred and will continue to be here as long as support is needed from FEMA and we can help Maui recover from this event. As I said earlier, I'm the Chief Federal Response Coordinator, and my job is to really support the state and local government here. So I'm not in the lead. I'm here to support them, and I do that by bringing multiple federal agencies in here to do that. And there's really three lines of effort that we're heavily focused in right now. The first one, as you heard, is we're just finishing, which was the search and rescue. We had teams start here on August 11th, over 400 search and rescue specialists from FEMA, 40 dogs deployed here. Over 19 states provided those individuals, and their efforts have been exemplary. I participated this Saturday in a transition of all the data and all the information search from our teams to the police chief and his teams. And they serve this community with the highest level of skill and the utmost respect to help the people of Lahaina. And our assistance to the county continues. Federal partners are providing continued assistance. As the coroner was just speaking, we're providing disaster mortuary teams from HHS. We're providing Department of Defense forensic anthropologists to the coroner's office, and many other subject matter experts as they need to continue to work on this area. As the police chief said, the FBI is involved with the investigation part of this, and we will continue to have those individuals support Maui until the job is done. While the urban search and rescue part of the mission is over, the critical comprehensive process of identification will continue, as you've heard, we'll continue to provide robust support to the county in the weeks and months ahead, and we'll all work toward finding all the missing and identify those who lost their lives. With the federal search and rescue complete, federal teams now turn to removing hazardous materials from the impacted area. The Environmental Protection Agency completed nearly all the hazardous material removal in upcountry yesterday and is now starting Lahaina. Teams are removing fuels, solvents, cleaners, paints, other household materials. The EPA will be supported also by the Corps of Engineers, especially in removing asbestos or other threats. The key is to make that area safe, and EPA will speak in much more detail about the hazards there here in a little bit, and they're extensive. Also, we're working to bring in teams to look at the structures. One of the things our search and rescue teams had were engineers on the team that identified many of the walls are very unsafe. Over 2,000 degree temperatures in there. The metals and a lot of the prefab walls have melted and are very dangerous. So we need to go ahead and look at the safety of those structures. And as you heard the county talk about, once that is done and that area is deemed safe, then we could start with re-entry. And the county's working aggressively toward a re-entry plan that will be phased in, that we will support and ensure that the safety area is accomplished through removing those hazmats and hazardous materials, identifying those structures. Once that's done, And I might add, once that's done, we will then work with the Corps of Engineers, and we will look at debris removal in that area and removing the debris from that area. But let me just be clear, no debris removal will begin without the permission of the property owner. That's really important. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. This is a collective effort. We're here in support, as I started with not only the state and local government, but the citizens of Lahaina that lost everything. And we want to be there and we'll work with you and need to work to get your permission to help you. And so we will, as we get to that part of the mission, provide more information on how we work together to help you remove debris from your property. This plan throughout this whole process will be really tightly coordinated. Not only will we be communicating through efforts like this, but we need to ultimately communicate directly to those individuals, and we'll be looking forward to do that. The second line of effort that we're focused on is really helping the individuals right now with their immediate needs today. And right after the fire, as we remember, everyone went to shelters. Our first thing was to move people out of the shelters to hotels. We have 4,300 people right now in hotels. FEMA is providing reimbursement to the state that entered into an agreement with the Red Cross to go ahead and provide that help. And not only are they providing hotel rooms, but they're providing wraparound services, including feeding and other services, whether it be mental health services, pharmaceuticals, even job training and other services while they do case management there at those hotels. FEMA has also approved more than $8 million in housing assistance to help survivors find comfortable and private living spaces. We know that individuals participating in the temporary housing and hotels programs will have questions when they need questions for us about when do they need to move. And survivors will transition to longer-term options at very different times depending on their individual situation. Some individuals and households will likely need more time, and we'll work with them on that. And some hotel occupants may need to leave sooner than others, and we'll work with them on that. There's many different forms of assistance to include insurance, to include the assistance from FEMA for rental assistance, include other things we could do to provide more direct assistance. And the Red Cross, for those that we can't directly help that may not be eligible in our program of FEMA, we'll work through the Red Cross to assist those individuals. Also, many other volunteer agencies and philanthropical organizations are looking to help many of those individuals. The FEMA teams are visiting emergency lodging sites to answer questions of survivors, to make sure that we're able to update them on disaster assistance. So as individuals have questions, they could always turn to the 1-800-621-3362 number. You could go to one of our disaster recovery centers, and those centers are located at the University of Hawaii Maui College and in Mahakua at the Mayor Hannibal Tavares Community Center. We know survivors may feel overwhelmed when they suddenly need temporary housing and resources, and their cars have been damaged, their homes have been damaged. But we can be there to help with those things and also replace personal belongings and even help with assistance for damaged cars. So please come see us. We're open 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're also looking at establishing a site on the western side that will be announced shortly. And then lastly, I just wanted to say, I think what everyone before me has said, that from the start, we have partnered with the trusted local community leaders and faith-based organizations who know the history and culture of Maui. It is through their guidance that we will be able to address the challenges on the ground and connect that with survivors in a way that resonates. This guidance informs how we will deliver help to individuals, how we are removing hazardous materials, how we will monitor closely for cultural and other sensitivities during the debris removal work. And it ensures that we will work together collectively with everyone here. With that, I thank you.
Aloha. Again, my name is Steve Kalinag. I'm leading EPA's Phase 1 hazardous materials, hazardous waste removal. This is the first step in the debris removal and recovery mission. First and foremost, this is at no cost to property owners. This is fully funded by federal funding. The Phase 1 household hazardous waste removal involves assessing properties, identifying hazards, and removing them. And those hazards can include compressed gas cylinders, pesticides, fertilizers, ammunition, radiologic devices, and in particular in Lahaina, lithium-ion battery, solar battery storage on homes, which there are quite a few. We have a team on island now of about 150 people. About 30% of them are local hires, which we've trained them in hazmat tech certifications. As Bob mentioned, we finished our work up in Kula in Olinda over the weekend and began in Lahaina yesterday. We have 6 household hazardous waste recovery teams out there with 3 recon teams, and then we will stand up additional teams in the coming days and weeks. Our intent is to do this work as safely as possible. The conditions out, especially in Lahaina, present a lot of challenges. We're working with the county and the state to go through as quickly and effectively, but ultimately as safely as possible. We all know of the rich and long historic and cultural significance of Lahaina. We've been working since we got here with cultural leaders, archaeologists from Maui and especially from the Lahaina area, and have integrated approximately 25 cultural observers into our teams to ensure that we proceed with caution, with reverence and respect to the Hawaiian history and culture. Lastly, as we process properties, we will be applying a soil tackifier to the ash piles, and this is due largely to the proximity of Lahaina's affected areas to the ocean. In discussions with the state and the county in terms of looking at options of how to mitigate ongoing discharges to the ocean, we've decided to apply a soil tackifier, which is, we've chosen a product that is non-toxic, biodegradable, marine safe, and as I think Bob mentioned, it will degrade in 2 to 3 months, but the effort is to minimize and mitigate the discharges of the ash to the ocean. And should the need occur, we can reapply it if we decide we want to do that. Other than that, that's all I have for this afternoon.
Aloha and good afternoon. First, I just want to express our deep condolences to everyone impacted by this tragedy. As Mr. Fenton and Mayor Bissen mentioned, the Corps has been tasked to lead the federal response during Phase 2 debris recovery in the areas that have been affected. We recognize the gravity of the loss in the communities and also the loss felt here on the island. We'll be working side by side with our partners during the totality of the debris removal process to ensure it's done safely, to ensure it's done with the utmost respect for the culture, the families, and the history of these communities. Moving forward, we're going to work with the County and City of Maui, State of Hawaii, EPA, FEMA, Department of Defense, Indo-Pacific Command, and most importantly, the communities. It's important to note that cultural awareness and approaching this with respect is one of our top priorities. In fact, being part of the Honolulu district, we have employees that live and work in Hawaii. And we have employees whose families have been affected by the fire. So it hits home for us as well. We're truly humbled by the mission and understand the importance it is to Maui, the state, and to the nation. We look to leverage our expertise, or I should say our experience and resources, and work with the communities to do whatever we can in order to allow them to heal and recover. Likewise, we'll work with local community leaders to the totality of the process of debris removal. For example, bringing in cultural monitors for any type of work that's done either on these properties, and making sure that they're involved. While there are many aspects of this process that are still being developed, such as which contractors will do the work, the status, or what's going to be done with the fire damaged material, where that fire damaged material is going to go, we will not do anything until we have the right cultural protocols, respectful protocols in place to include working with EPA in their Phase 1 activities, and also making sure we have written consent from all the property owners. Safety and respecting cultural heritage is and will continue to be our top priority. Thank you very much.
Thank you. They are our valued partners who come with particular expertise and skill set. They were not given a test on how to say makawao. So I will say that Mr. Fenton intended to say makawao at the Hannibal Tavares Community Center, Upcountry Maui. Because we are partners, because there are things I don't know that they do, and we will help with that. We'll proceed with the questions for our speakers. We also have a few resource personnel here with us today, and as always, we will ask that you raise your hand, identify who you're with. We'll call on you, and we'll get through today as best way we can. I saw from the front here first, followed by a fellow in the brown shirt, and I know I saw another hand here in the yellow. And then we'll go to Dash, and then there. Let's see.
Hi, Chelsea Davis, reporter for Hawaii News Now. I have 4 questions. First one.
You can ask 2, and then we'll go that way. We'll come back to you.
Okay. So first question is for Dr. Supel. I apologize if I don't say your name correctly, but read online that you're from New York. I just wanted to know, when did you get here? Were you recruited specifically for this disaster? And did you work on the 9/11 attacks?
So the question is for Dr. Stupdagel, where did he join us from, and did he have experience on the 9/11 event? Doctor?
Yes, so I have come here early. I was supposed to start into the future, so I've come here specifically early for this event. I wasn't there for 9/11. I've been there about a decade in New York, and other prior experience as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir in the brown?
Do you have a second question? Yeah, can I?
Oh, he's letting you go. Okay.
I don't know who this question is directed to, but
Sure.
It's about access. I know you said can't give a specific timeline, but we are in contact with a nonprofit organization, Billy Graham Samaritan Purse, who says they've had hundreds of people sign up with them, and they want to safely allow them back into their homes to go sift through belongings safely with PPE. Just wondering if that's been brought to anyone's attention, if that will be allowed.
Sure. The question is about access with nonprofits and other volunteers coming. How do they gain access, and how do they support that next step process? Administrator?
Yes, thank you. So as we shared, the phase we're in right now is getting the hazardous materials removed first. And the next phase with the return to Lahaina is that part with allowing access for residents, businesses, as you can imagine, even insurance adjusters needing to get in. And it will be coordinated with a very clear plan. As I said, I'd like to give you a definitive timeline. It obviously depends on how quickly the EPA can complete their mission. But with the intent, as soon as it is safe to access, we will work with the community on their access. And I really appreciate you bringing up the PPE, because as we do provide access, we will work with each person or family or individuals getting on property to make sure they're safe, as well as when they leave the area, we properly decontaminate them, because we don't want them taking something, exposing others. So it will be coordinated with the community. Thank you.
To add to that, so this is about a 5 square mile area we're talking about. So as the EPA clears off certain grids or zones, our hope is to, when they move to the next, that we can let that group of affected people into that area. So we won't have to wait until the entire place is cleared. We're going to try to do this in a way that we've talked about already. So our hope is once they clear one area, when they go to a different area, not to cause dust and anything, they can go to another area, we can bring people back there to go through their homes. Yes.
Thank you. I'll go to the gentleman in the brown.
Thank you. I'm Nick Vogelborough with the New York Times. I think my question is probably for Mr. Oliveira. Obviously the focus is on moving forward and what's next and the recovery, as it should be. But people I've been talking to, and I imagine everyone here has been talking to, also have questions about the response and the EMA response. I know there's an after-action report that will happen eventually, but how soon can you commit to putting out even a basic timeline of when alerts were sent, who knew what when, just a very basic timeline?
Okay, so the question is, knowing that in the future there would be an after-action report, how soon would there be additional information from the early days of the incident? Administrator?
I guess if you could give me some latitude, this being my second day, focusing on the way forward, we definitely will commit resources to looking back at an after-action review. And as soon as we have credible information that we can give you that's accurate, as I shared with others, I wasn't here for the onset, so I couldn't speak with any accuracy. So as I get more situated and embedded and have the time, I assure you an after-action review and information will be coming out via the administration. Thank you.
Okay, good. Then we went to Dash, fellow in the blue corner here, yellow shirt and blue shorts. Oh, was that you first? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. This question is for Administrator Darrell. Over the weekend, there was a small brush fire. It was here on Maui. It required some evacuations. It was quickly extinguished. At the time, there were evacuation sirens that were sounded. Is that the new protocol? And does that decision shed light on the previous decision at all?
So over the weekend, we had a small brush fire in the Kaanapali area of West Maui. The question is, the sounding of the sirens occurred, and how does that reflect on the previous incident and going forward?
Yes, thank you. So I think it's an excellent opportunity for just reinforce that what was forecast for this current hurricane season and going through the fall is a very dry season for the entire state. Many areas, including here on Maui, will be vulnerable to future fires. Looking for the public's help with preventing that. But to your specific question with the sirens, so we are currently working with General Haima, the governor's office, the mayor's office, on new protocols for the use of a siren system with warning. I can speak from previous experience on the Big Island as both the fire chief and emergency manager. Sirens were not used for wildfire operations in the past. We see tremendous value in incorporating more tools into our arsenal to keep the public aware and get them early warning. And it's going to require your help with a good marketing and education piece. As I said, we haven't used sirens in the past for wildfires. As we go forward, we need to educate the public on what do they need to do when a siren sounds. And that includes our visitor population that will be unfamiliar as well. So looking forward to working with you, but specifically we are looking at changing systems to improve how we notify the public. Yes.
And if I may, just one quick follow-up. The second question, actually, there was one person who said that there were 4,300 people who moved from shelters to hotels. We're hearing this concern from a lot of people that we've met that there are not a lot of tourists who are here at the moment, and concerned there won't be in future weeks. What is your message to people on the continent who are concerned that maybe hearing these numbers, that so many people are in hotels and fearing coming here? What is your message to them?
Okay, so the question is for those who are concerned about travel to Maui during this incident. What is our message to those? I'll turn it over to Mayor Bissen, and I failed to ask for your name and your media outlet.
Sorry, this is Zorin Shah with ABC Network News.
Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you for that question. We are working with groups. What we want to do is return jobs to our people. And I'm sure if you've spoken to people, they've talked to you about that. There's a lot of concern about how people will be, moving forward. So we stress that West Maui is not currently the place for people to go, but the rest of Maui is open. In fact, the entire state of Hawaii is open. And I think there might have been a misunderstanding early on in this that I'm not sure how familiar people are with geography in our state of Hawaii, but every island is safe to come to visit. And of course, parts of Maui are not currently, and that's what we consider our west side. We'll work on a plan on how we will, get to that in the future. That's not something we're gonna deal with right now. But South Maui, I'm not sure where everybody here is staying, but you probably can be our best witnesses to this, letting the rest of the world know that other parts of Maui are open and available.
And sir, I'm sorry
Thank
for
you.
the follow-up, but if
Okay.
you do have this number, what percentage are the hotels at right now? At what capacity are they at this moment?
I don't know what the percentage of, the question is what is the percentage of the capacity at the hotels right now? I would not be able to answer that. I don't know. Thank you.
Followed by.
All right, Mahima, thanks. This is, I'll continue to press the luck of asking two questions. The first for Mayor and Darrell. It's good to see you, my friend. There's a red flag warning as early as tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, fire warning. What, if anything, is being done to alert the people immediately, because this is something that we may be facing again in the next 24 to 48 hours, dry, hot winds. And the second question for you, I guess you can both talk to that, is Mayor, any response to Hiko's comment that the power lines were de-energized prior to the afternoon fire on the 8th?
So now that we've broken the one question rule at a time, because now I have to remember two questions at a time, and I have to also say that was Howard Dashevsky from KJON too. The question is the red flag warning, and we are deferring all Hawaiian Electric questions to our outside counsel. So, Administrator?
I'll speak to the first question. So messaging already started. National Weather Service did an excellent, I want to say, public information release explaining the difference between the watch and going into the red flag warning coming up later. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're in a very dry season for the entire state. It's likely that we will see repetitive events like this with high fire risk. So again, need the public's cooperation with, again, no outdoor burning kind of activities. And as far as the warning, like I said, we're looking at using as many tools and resources as we can to keep the public aware and well-informed, inclusive if there needs to be any evacuations, that coordinated piece. We're very lucky too that General Hart and his team have committed air assets on station on Maui to support fire suppression should something happen. So I think everyone is very in tune and very sensitive to what has happened and looking forward to what can we do to minimize any potential fire threat.
Any emails or phone, SMS messaging going out in the next 24 to 48 hours just to make sure people know that we're reporting it, but
Correct.
are people getting that message?
Yes, so we will be deploying all of our tools to get messages and communications and appreciate your help with getting that word out. Thank you.
So I'm Major General Kenneth Hauer. I'm the Adjutant General for the State of Hawaii and the State's Incident Commander for the Maui fire response. So what we did is, as Darrell Oliveira mentioned, we repositioned a CH-47 Chinook helicopter that has a 2,000-gallon water bucket. That'll save us time on getting that aircraft, in the air and to Maui. So probably save us about an hour and a half. So we'll keep that in here throughout the warning period. And in addition, we're looking at positioning some guardsmen in some strategic locations to observe high-risk areas should there be any arcing. Thank you.
Aloha, Fire Chief Brad Ventura. To add to that, we're also, for this upcoming warning, we're upstaffing resources on both the west side as well as the Central Valley side. We do have one helicopter contracted with us that's available from sunup to sundown should the weather permit, and that company also has additional helicopters available for us if we need additional helicopters. So if the winds are sufficient enough to fly, then we'll continue to fight fire that way, as we did in Kaanapali just a couple days ago. Thank you.
Sorry, General Howard, I can have one follow-up to Howard's question. So in addition to that one CH-47 that we repositioned here on Maui, there's an additional Hawaii National Guard CH-47 on standby, and then more helicopters from the 25th Combat Aviation Brigade active duty on standby. And that's for the entire state, not just Maui. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to continue where I left off. Sir, right here in the blue, followed by sitting there, and then fellow in the aloha shirt. Then we'll move over to this way before they throw a water balloon at me, because they're all here.
I also have two questions, John. Why not? With CBS News. The first question is for Mayor Bissen. I know, and you know this, your office has come under a lot of criticism from residents. You are the highest ranking official here on the island. As part of your job, you have to communicate with the state for backup in the event of emergency. Major Hara has revealed that he did not know, his team did not know there were deaths until the following morning. If the buck stops with your office, how is that possible?
Okay, so the question is, with the quickly evolving fire, the information that reached Mayor Bissen compared to what reached the state level. Mayor?
Yeah, I can't speak to what or whose responsibility it was to communicate directly
You're the
with
boss
General.
of this island,
I am.
so yes, you
I
can
am.
speak
Let
to
him
it.
answer.
No, I'm saying I can't say who was responsible for communicating with General Hara. That's
So
what my
you were
answer
not,
was.
you were not in communication with anybody at this point of the state? With
No, I was in communication with the state. We were on a meeting earlier that morning on a Zoom call.
earlier that morning, but you were
Correct.
not in communication with the emergency response, the state, as that fire barreled down and in the many hours afterwards?
Well, first of all, when you say that fire, which one are you talking about? We had three
Exactly.
going on at
Well,
the same time,
There were
so.
two on the Hino, the first one, and that grew into the second one, but I'm specifically talking about that time period where hospitals were packed, social media showed the fire, showed people running for their lives, and yet.
Well, I wasn't on
your
social
office
media,
is
so
not in
I can't speak,
communication.
first of all, I'm not gonna speak to social media. I wasn't on social media. We didn't have time for that. But I'm referring to the fire that was going on in Kula, not the two fires in
So take me
Lahaina
through
as well.
Lahaina, which is why we're all here.
Well, I'm gonna
today.
answer your question.
Yeah.
I don't know who spoke to General Hara. That's my answer to your question. And that's for all four of your questions.
Okay, so my question is for now,
Well,
General Hara. I would like
first,
some clarification.
you're gonna let us answer though, right?
Was that?
Are you gonna let us answer
I
the
will
question?
answer.
Let me
Just
kind
clarify what
of,
I'm
let me
doing.
clarify some things when the mayor is trying to answer and you're rudely interrupting. At first point, I'm Major General Kenneth Hara, not Major. So I didn't say, well, I said I didn't know about the deaths the following morning. I didn't say the county was not in communication with me. We're looking at whatever response the state could do, but because of the winds, we couldn't start our helicopters and we couldn't launch them in commitment. We're ready. We're ready to go. So the narrative you're pushing is not totally accurate.
Don't you think, it's not narrative, don't you think it was important for your agency to know about the deaths 12 hours later?
I don't think I could have done anything about that.
You don't think there was any way that people could have been mobilized to maybe help prevent? We don't know how many other people maybe died waiting for a response. You don't think there's anything your agency?
I don't think so with the time, the rate
Okay.
that the fire spread. But I talked about this previously, is 60 to 85 miles per hour. You think about that. That's a mile a minute.
In the last.
And even the fire department that was there on the ground that almost perished, didn't know how deadly it was and how quickly it's going to spread. Let me finish, brother. Right?
I'm just saying, the timeline, we've been looking at the timeline.
What I'm trying to say is that that fire was so rapid, and by the time everyone had situational awareness, it was too late, unfortunately. So that's all I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I appreciate the non-debate questions.
Transparency.
I think we are doing our best, and you know that we will get our way through that. So I'll ask you for that continued. Okay. Okay. Now I totally lost my
Lady in the front and the gentleman in the back.
in the back, and then we're going to go over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Brittany Light from Civil Beat. This question is for Dr. Stucknagel. Hope I'm saying your name right. Could you speak in detail about the identification process and where it stands at this point? Have you received enough DNA swabs from folks? Is that holding up IDing in any way? And as the hazmat phase of recovery begins, do you expect remains to still be found?
Okay. So the question is for Dr. Stucknagel in terms of the process. If you could identify a little bit more information, and as the hazmat process begins and makes its way, what happens with additional remains if they're found, Doctor?
Thank you for the question. So we are still in need of DNA samples from families, and that is hindering our identification process for sure. So that's something we definitely need. We are working other scientific methods to identify the people, basically working it from every angle that we can to get these people identified and back to their families. Now, as far as remains that may be out there, there's the potential for some, and if they do come, we'll be ready to receive them and do what we need to do to get those people identified and back to their families. So we're up and ready to receive. Hopefully no other people come, but if they do, we're ready.
Doctor, how many DNA received, do you have any sense of why more aren't coming in, if that's hindering your work?
Not everyone has been contacted, and not every family member that has someone lost in the fire has come through. And we still need quite a few more. And then, of course, the science behind it, DNA does help a great deal, but we don't always get the best results with the samples we have. So that's also a scientific, issue that we do have. The quality of the sample. Thank you.
Can I add to that really quick?
Yes,
Because we have 120 plus DNA samples from family members. But we need more, because that might be 3 family members that gave samples to one individual. And we've got 110 DNA samples from those that we've recovered. And so we're trying to make matches and do different things. And so if there's a message that you guys can get out there, because this is a one team, one fight thing. And I think that's so important. It's not just one team meaning us. It's one team meaning all of us. And that means you, the members of the media. Whether you understand that or not, it's part of, you're part of the Ohana that's going through this, whether you understand that or not. And so you can throw aloha out, but if you don't feel it and mean it, we all here know it. And so the reason I say it is we need your help. Man, we need your help, because we got to get out there and say, please, if you have somebody that you know is missing, file that report and get that swab and help us get these folks the respect and dignity that they so greatly deserve.
You want to know where you get DNA samples, the Family Assistance Center?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the Family Assistance Center. If in doubt, Family Assistance Center. Our partnerships with the FBI. We can get samples from anybody on any state and any country, and we've got those coming in. And so if you think you have somebody that's affected that is unaccounted for, make that notification and we will follow up.
I will say that our Family Assistance Center is reporting about 150 to 200 visits to the center at the Hyatt Hotel in Kaanapali. The DNA submittals are not coming in at the volume, and it could simply be that folks are holding back, unsure, not prepared. So we do encourage anyone with missing loved ones, unaccounted for loved ones, please go there and submit a DNA. Sir, you've been waiting patiently in the back there.
Oh, hi, Peter Boylan with the Honolulu Star Advertiser. Attorney General Lopez was on the ground for about 48 hours, the governor was saying recently. And this is for anybody from the county. Between her investigation and the Department of Justice's probe, how many county officials have been interviewed so far? And I don't know if that's being run through the Corporation Counselor. Have any of you guys been interviewed by either state or federal investigators?
No, I don't believe so. So we're unprepared to respond to that. Thank you, Peter. The question is, has any county officials been involved to date with any of the questions from State Attorney General's
Right, have they been
office?
interviewed as a part of either the state probe or the U.S. Department of Justice probe?
No, not to our knowledge.
So no, okay.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Sir, you've been waiting. Go ahead.
Thank you. Jeremy Lee, KITV. This is a question for Chiefs Ventura and Chief Pelletier. In regards to the aid, Chief Ventura, you commented that there was communication that was constant from people on the ground to emergency management. The people of West Maui have been submitting video. I have now a video at 2:42 p.m. of Engine 11, which would be in the Peely, racing past the Lahaina Gateway. The question is, we talk about vertical communication. What kind of horizontal communication in the key hours of 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. was ongoing between command and control of police and fire, that being whoever was in your stead at that time?
The question is, what kind of communication between our fire department and our police department occurred in the early stages of the Lahaina fire, correct?
Particularly the hours of 3 and 4 p.m.
Between 3 and 4 p.m. Chief?
Or sorry, 3 and 5 p.m. 3 and 4 p.m. hours.
So we share the same dispatch center, both police and fire here. So all of our information goes to the same location so that it can be quickly sent out to the other organization. The Engine 11 and the PD truck that you're talking about was being assigned to another incident and then got canceled. So that's why they were in that area when the 3 p.m. fire started. throughout the initial 2 hours you're asking about, our radio communications stood up to a lot of the weather and systems that were failing around this. Cell phone service was an issue for everybody, including us, but our radio communications continued to work as normal and with our command structure as we planned.
Just to follow up, is there a time that you realized you were not dealing with a brush fire, but you were dealing with an inferno that was threatening the town?
Yeah, certainly. The question is, when did we realize we were dealing with more of an inferno than a brush fire? That didn't take but about 25 minutes for our commanders to transition from the field fire they were in into the houses and start evacuating people over the radio. So it was pretty quick.
And that would be between 3:30 p.m. and 4 p.m., is it about?
I don't want to give you a number, but it was quick early on in the incident.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Going here, there, and then followed by the purple shirt.
Yes, I can talk about it now. My first question is, I'm assuming that a lot of the missing people are already found, but they're just not identified. Would that be fair to say? They're on a missing persons list, but they don't know who they are, right? Their remains are not identified yet. So that would kind of lower the number, maybe the total number. But that being said, will there be a process if somebody thinks, oh, my loved one is definitely in that house, and there's a way to say, was somebody found there,
Yes.
or not found there, and is there another process that you can do to further, try to find the darling is there?
So the question again is reconciling the list of unaccounted for individuals with those who may actually be accounted for and safe, and how do we clear that list? Chief Pelletier?
Great question. I'm going to get to it. I'm just going to kind of piggyback. The radio system worked on that other thing, and a lot of questions come up with this after action. I know we had another one. We're 21 days in. We're still actively trying to get through this. We're talking about a plan. There's going to be more after actions on this than have ever been done in the state of Hawaii. I can assure you of that. We're going to do internal ones our own self, and I will share that with every police agency in the world. Okay, so I say that because we want to get all the answers right too, because there are some incredible stories, and so we look at these things and we're trying to figure it out. And I just saw a video for the first time yesterday of an officer running into the coffee bean, and actually people were sheltered in place, and they pulled them out and they got them into safety. And the vehicles that were following them, they turned around, got them, and made sure that they were okay. And all this while it was extremely dangerous. And so there's incredible stories out there, and we haven't even had a chance to dig in that because we're still in the middle of it. And I know everybody wants to know that. We're going to get there. Reference the question on the missing and the numbers. What we've labeled the MIT, the Morgue Identification Notification Task Force. The reason it's task force is because it's joint resources. So when you have, like, the military and law enforcement becomes a task force, or the feds, right? So that's why we call it that way. What we want to do is we want to get that report. And the reason why that missing persons report is so incredibly valuable is now we've got the information. So after we released the credible list of the 388, we actually got an email from a lady from New Zealand, and she circled where her father was known to be at on a map. She sent a photo of the individual, gave all the pertinent information that we could have. That's the kind of stuff that we need to get. And so the more data we get, the better. And as we get to the numbers and we get to these identifiers, so we have a little bit over 50, I think it's 53 of the recoveries we've made identifications. 45 we notified the family, so we've still got some, but we still have a lot of work to do. And so the more information we can get, the better. Eventually, we'll get to a reconciliation. It's going to take some time, though. It's not an automatic thing. And I think when I talked about trust the process, it's trusting that process to get, hey, each week we're going to come up with the credible list. We're going to continue to push out the names that we've got so that you guys can have that. Because again, I mean, these are people that, oh my goodness, it's their families. It's everything, and it's right there, and now it's publicized. And so, the more we get that, the better we're going to get there. And that's why in the Mint we have investigators. We have it's not just MPD, but it's also FBI. It's also Honolulu PD. It's also, we've got folks from Big Island that are assisting at the perimeter, and we're doing data scrubs. And so, or I guess we're drilling down. If I say scrub, I don't want to think we're washing something away. We're drilling down into the particulars to find out. Yesterday we were at 112 unaccounted for reports. We're at 110. Why? Different people reported the same person and used different monikers, different nicknames. But once we drilled down and realized it was the same person, we could merge those reports.
But is there any way to, if somebody really believes that their loved one was in a particular house or something, that can go back, like an anthropologist or some of people that...
And so when I was talking about earlier with the intelligence component on the investigation, that's what we're looking at. And so when we get the information, we have anthropologists at the Mint, we can go back and we can make sure that if there was something that we know the urban search and rescue are the best. We know I showed you the map. They hit everything. We have data points for all that. But we're not going to sit here and say that if there's any way we can do more, we're going to do everything we can to do the most we can do. You know, there's nothing is perfect, but we're going to try our damnedest to be as perfect as we can in our response. And we're going to do it right.
Thank you, Chief. We're going to go to the purple and then the plancher in the middle. Yeah.
Hi, thanks. Ping Huang, National Public Radio, and I also have two questions. The first one is about the new phase, the hazardous waste removal that you're announcing today. Can you help us sort of understand what that entails? You know, will it look like bulldozers coming into the site? How are you going to get permission from people, especially if, you know, they're no longer living? And is there any sort of concern that might stir up toxic ash in the site that might make the air unsafe to breathe?
Sure. The question is about the actual process for hazardous removal, what type of equipment is involved, and how to prevent ashes from being impacted as that work is being done. Sir?
Thank you. Again, so household hazardous waste removal or hazardous waste removal is a light touch. We don't use heavy equipment. Generally, our team, a task force, is comprised of about 8 to 10 people. We have an assessment team that goes in with all kinds of monitoring gear, looking for volatile organic compounds or radiation or things like that. And then the removal team comes in and fully dressed in PPE, Tyvek respirators, boots and gloves and what have you. They are pulling out by hand the hazardous materials that they identify. It's a light touch. We endeavor not to raise a lot of dust and fugitive emissions, if you will. And then with regards to access, the State Attorney General's office issued a emergency declaration early on, which, because of and cited a public emergency, granted us access to the individual properties.
Okay. Your second one, I'm going to the plancher.
Thank you. I'll be quick about this. So I have a question about, you know, I've been hearing a lot of rumors spreading through the hotels, you know, different theories on how the fire started that aren't related to the electric company. And I'm wondering, have you heard these rumors too? Are they impacting your ability to respond? You know, I've heard some people, for instance, not trusting the water advisory and thinking that the water is still safe in their homes. And I'm wondering, you know, how do you respond to these rumors?
You know, maybe I can help with that a little bit. The question is, how do we respond and deal with all the rumors out there? Our community, you know, has valid anxiety and levels of concern. I think from the beginning, we as a county had not experienced this, nor has anyone involved today. Rumors are difficult to manage. We invite folks to go to the mauicounty.gov to ask us directly at our information line and to follow credible sources. We have rumors, everything from the cause of the fire to our federal partners, even some speculation that are just the most outlandish. We are doing our best even on social media to stop any rumors that cause unnecessary anxiety. Last week we addressed a rumor about fatalities, you know, that were washing up on another island through our ocean channels. That is absolutely incorrect. So I would say, you know, that every incident, every community will be faced with that. The bigger the incident, the more rumors. It's our job to do our best to ferret that out. So I ask our public and those involved, follow credible sources, follow your journalists who you trust and know that they themselves have vetted out the story and the information. And at the end of the day, we are a small town as well. Our interest is on our community and how we can help them. And I want to reassure them on that one. So thank you for that question. Sir, in the plat?
I just wanted to touch on the first one just one
Sure.
more time, because I better take an opportunity to do it, because there's been so much misinformation. So as EPA, underneath that declaration by the governor, can go in and remove the hazards, that's all they're doing is removing the hazards. When you talk about getting a right of entry to then go remove the debris, that's when we would do that. So when you think of steps, the first step was been the search. The second step then is to remove the hazards, to look at the safety of the structure, determine whether it's safe or not. Third step, reentry, that the county emergency manager talked about for the public, talked about phases. The next step would be debris removal, and so that would be the step where we'd want to work with the public to get a right of entry. And so we have no intention to move things off the property or to impact the property other than to make it safe and remove hazards. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bob. Sir, in the plat?
Hi, Sumiko with NBC National News Put Together. This question is for Chief Ventura or whoever would like to take it. What, if any, comment can you make about Hawaiian Electric's claim that there were two separate fires, but specifically that the second fire happened after it de-energized?
So I just want to make it clear to everyone, we are not taking Hawaiian Electric related questions today. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. The question is about the Hawaiian Electric statement about de-energizing their lines. So I just want to make it clear to all journalists here, we are not taking questions related to the litigation in motion right now. So we'll defer those as we release to media to continue to our outside counsel.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Was that your question? Did you
Yeah.
Okay. Shivo, and then back to Chelsea.
Yeah, thank you. I have a pocket full of questions.
We'll give you two because somebody
some of
started
which
to.
are full of blame and finger pointing, but I'm going to pull those back. I would like to ask about the hazardous removal, and you've been very clear about just removing the hazards. What about the levels of ash and all of the other stuff that comes next, considering it is such an old and historic town? Do you expect to find, evidence and be careful with the original town that was there?
So the question is, given the historic nature and the devastation in Lahaina, how careful will we be and how will that be handled?
Okay, thank you for the question. So our hazardous waste, hazardous materials removal activities is quick. So we're looking easily identifiable, easily removable hazardous materials is what we're after. And so with regards to asbestos, we're going to look for and remove big pieces of asbestos containing material. What's in the ash will largely then be addressed by the next phase. And
Do you want to talk about even like the hazards and batteries and how hazardous it is?
Okay,
just
sure.
to kind of explain to them how hazardous that area is.
The batteries?
Yeah, batteries.
Okay, so lithium-ion batteries, which I had mentioned before, which are energy storage and largely associated with solar power systems, there are a lot. And once they become, as in the battery industry, once they become insulted, impacted, they become very unstable. Fire departments, EPA, and other state hazmat agencies, we treat them like unexploded ordnance, and we have to handle them with great care. And so that the removal of them, the transportation and final disposition is a very sophisticated process that we need to take great care and planning for.
As mentioned for phase two, probably just kind of go over a little bit what a debris mission is. And as stated before, we're working out those details right now. But for us, for the Corps of Engineers, we're in the planning phase as EPA does its process. When we get to the physical removal of the debris, what we do is we first get the rights of entry, as Mr. Fenton had stated. I think it's good to note that in the process between when EPA does, probably when EPA it's determined by the county, that residents will be allowed to go in and sit for personal effects. So the Corps is not in charge of that. We're actually part of that process just to make sure we're doing that respectfully. Once we scope and the contractors come in, there's two types of debris. There's fire damage material, or hazardous or unhazardous. The unhazardous, to include probably metal and concrete, if determined to be removed, can be recycled on island or sent to the landfill. The hazardous part is the one that we would specially package and then figure out final disposition. The plans for maybe a TDSR site or temporary debris reduction site or the final disposition, we're working with the partners right now to figure that piece out. And lastly, I think to mention, anyone that would be on the mission would be trained to look at personal items and set those aside. There's no intention to go in there and bulldoze stuff down. There's intention to be as careful and cautious and culturally sensitive as we can. Thank you.
I won't push that, Chief. And I think it was said earlier, but just to remind everyone, there are cultural monitors embedded in each of these teams, whichever, whether it's EPA, debris removal. So if someone is unfamiliar with Lahaina town, or unfamiliar with an artifact, or unfamiliar with something they come across, there will be people there to help identify that. And that's the entire reason they're there, is to make sure something's not overlooked, by accident.
And they actually have the authority to stop.
Come on.
I was just going to mention that they have the authority to stop work if required. So they do have the authority. Then there's one with each heavy piece of equipment to ensure that we treat every site with dignity.
Thank you, Chivo. We'll go back to Trustee in front.
Simple question. Who was calling the shots for Maui Emergency Management Agency that day?
The question is, who was calling the shots? Who was in charge of Maui Emergency Management Agency that day?
Mayor.
Mayor?
That's right. I'm not sure who was in charge. I think Herman Andaya was still in charge. He just wasn't present. He was in contact with his team, I guess by phone. I don't know exactly how. But he was still the emergency manager for us then. So I don't know. I was sitting there in the room.
EOC.
Yeah, we started with a FaceTime or a Zoom call. I guess a Zoom call. Okay, okay, Blue Jeans. We were on a screen. And we were in communication with the Honolulu folks that were being briefed on what was happening. But I don't know what the chain of command was between that, so.
What time are you referring to? What time of day are you referring to?
The morning. Yeah, I don't know what hour it was. It was the morning.
On Tuesday morning?
It was Tuesday morning because we were battling the cooler fire. The cooler fire started just around midnight. So the EOC was stood up.
And if
It was already.
I'm sorry, I'm a little new to this. If you can just take us through the TikTok of Tuesday, like when did you?
Yeah, I don't have all of that for you. Yeah, I don't have all of that for you. But.
And if I may ask another follow-up to Administrator Darrell, essentially I didn't hear you say a yes to the question about the sirens. You said you're looking to deploy tools, you're looking for the public's help. So the answer right now, it seems like it's not a yes. It sounds like your goal is to get it to a yes. Is that correct?
So clarifying with Administrator Oliveira about getting to a goal of using sirens going forward.
Yes, since coming on board, and again, second day, as recent as this morning, a meeting was with the HIEMA director, myself, and all of the emergency managers across the state to discuss the process by which sirens will be used, not just here in Maui, but across the state for the purposes of all hazards, to include wildfire. We want to be assured that the message is consistent across all communities. And as an example, Maui County lost some of its physical hardware with the sirens in the fire. We are working with a vendor to provide temporary portable sirens to close gaps. As I mentioned earlier, in addition to the wildfires, we're still vulnerable to tsunamis and other events. We want to make sure our coastal communities and all communities have the resources to stay informed. So yes, sirens will be used in the future, and once we have the process, that will be communicated to the public so they'll know what's their role when we sound a siren. What should they do?
What is the timeline for something like that?
I want to say the process is being vetted as we speak. It'll be, again, circulated with the mayors and with the governor to get their okay. but I think we have set the foundation for that, and it's ready to be shared with the executives.
So it could be weeks or months?
I'm thinking days. Now, the hardware, as I said, needs to be acquired, but as far as process, as you heard on Saturday, sirens were deployed for the fire that occurred on Saturday. So we're already seeing the change take place. I'm speaking more to the codified process that everyone will then see in writing and be communicated to the public.
Thank you, Administrator. So I know that I had promised to go to the dark brown shirt. We are at the hour and 15-minute stretch. I allowed you to jump in a little bit. Okay. Again, but I think it's a bright yellow shirt. We just kind of noticed it quicker. I have been looking at you, Cynthia, and I know we missed one reporter who has not asked a question at all. So the black shirt there, and that will be a last one for today, sir.
Okay. I asked one question earlier, so maybe I get my second now.
Yeah, it's your second.
Thank you guys so much, and I won't interrupt, but I do think it's important to answer this as directly as possible. Mayor, when did you learn that people had perished in this fire, and what was the communication breakdown that delayed that message from, obviously firefighters on the ground knew that was happening, they knew the level of destruction. Where was the breakdown that led to you not knowing for longer than you should have?
I do want to just comment on that line of question and those type of questions. As Chief has said, we're still in the process of the response. There will be an analysis, a review of the early days and the hours following and the days and weeks. Speculating or guessing the hour and minute by minute blow here at the podium will not be correct, but we would like to have accurate information available. So I'm not denying that. I will tell you, though, speculating is really not a good thing for us right now. So, Mayor, did you want to offer anything?
No, that's our answer.
Okay.
I apologize, I don't mean to speculate, but I'm wondering when that happened. Can you tell us?
We're not going to guess right off of the microphone today. I'm sorry. Yeah. Last question to, yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Marisa Peñalosa with NPR. We've been meeting with people whose homes are still standing. They didn't burn down, but they're damaged, right? And I wonder if you have assessed the number of such homes.
So the question is, with homes that are damaged but still structurally looking as if they're standing, do we know the volume, the number of those in existence today? Administrator?
And I apologize, I don't have a number. What I can tell you is that the county building officials, our DPW department, will be working together with the other organizations to do structural assessments to make sure those buildings are still safe. And if people need assistance with repair and recovery, to work together with them. So I might be able to give you a number at a future date, which I'll work on. But at this point, I don't have a number on specific to the number of homes that are damaged but still habitable.
How about power? When do you think it would be restored? Because people are ready to move in, regardless of
Right.
you know, whether they know if their homes are structurally safe and sound. But they say that if they could have water and power, they would immediately move back in. Do you know when that would happen?
So the question is the restoration of power, water, and wastewater. That is a very coordinated effort taking place between, obviously, the utility companies, the county, et cetera. Each one of those maybe is codependent on the other. Wastewater and water is dependent on power as well. So it is a coordinated, but I want to stress the safety element first and foremost. As I shared earlier, the EPA is trying to get into the hazardous waste and hazardous material removal. If we energize certain areas, that puts their teams at risk and can't complete. We definitely are very sensitive to if we can restore power, water, and wastewater for community members that are in structures that may be habitable. That's our goal, to do that as soon as possible. I'd like to give you time frames, but it's a lot of coordination taking place right now. And if I do have time frames, I will share that as soon as possible.
Thank you, everybody. We've been at it for about an hour, 15 minutes. I appreciate it. Our aloha to you. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Now, you have been getting the latest from Maui officials on the wildfires disaster. And to recap some of those key points, Mayor Bissen said that with more than 400 people involved in actively searching and rescuing, they're now moving to the next phase, working with FEMA and the EPA to ensure that residents and businesses in Lahaina can return safely. Daryl Oliveira, who is the interim Maui Emergency Management Administrator and whose first day on the job was yesterday. Now, he promises transparency and says as they move forward to the next phase, the EPA is removing hazardous material so that everyone can return safely to their homes and businesses. And Oliveira reminds us that this is the dry season, so he's working now with HAIMA and General Hara in changing the systems and how to notify the public about wildfires. Plus, he said that sirens have not been used in the past for wildfires, but that now, moving forward, they're now looking at using sirens and other alerts. And in fact, he said, sirens were used during the wildfire last weekend. Police Chief John Pelletier says that on Friday, a new list of those found and still missing will be released. And the coroner said that his office is working hard to release the names from the DNA sample so that this can help with the grieving process. And then he added that more DNA samples and swabs are needed to help with this identification process. The FEMA official says they are providing housing, mental health, and food for those impacted, and that $8 million has been provided for housing. All involved said that they're working with cultural experts to ensure respect to the historical and cultural significance of Lahaina and Maui. And we, of course, will have a full report of these new developments at 4 and online at KITV.com, plus across all social media. Mahalo for joining us. And as always, our prayers are with all of our ohana on Maui. We now continue with our regular programming.